Hey everybody, welcome back to another video, and this time we're going to talk a little bit about Palworld, right? So Palworld, they introduced a change in a very old update, not a very old update, but kind of like a recent update a couple of weeks back in version 0.3.11, changes to player controls. So they made a change into the behavior of summoning pals, right? So that they're always summoned near the pal. So the change is pretty much this, right? So before we would throw the pal sphere and then they would just come out of the sphere, right? Just like in most just like in a lot of creature summoning games, right? Most notably Pokemon, yeah, right. So now what happens is you hold the sphere right next to you and the pal just comes right next to you, right? Now it's obvious that they did this to counter one of the patterns, right? I made it like we discussed about this in a previous video, and I'm sure a lot of people know about this, right? So where was it? So yeah, so a month ago, Pal Pocket Pair, they put out a post kind of like detailing about the patterns that Pokemon are trying to sue them for. Pokemon and Nintendo are trying to sue them for, and we talked about these patterns, right? So they're very basic, right? They're very basic in nature. The first pattern was about mounting a creature, like riding a creature, right? Very basic. Second one was summoning a pal, so like summoning a creature, like how to summon a creature, like throwing a ball, like a spherical object, summoning. So very basic things, very basic mechanics. And the third one was summoning them for battles, right? Battle aspects. So very three basic patterns. So now the reason I'm making this video is like a lot of people are hating on this change, right? They're saying that a lot of people are like not are not liking this change. Not a whole lot, but some people are, right? I've seen like around the community, it's not sitting well with some of the players and things like that. And we should hate the devs for making this change. It's a small change, right? Sure, some people might not be satisfied with the new animations and things like that. That's fine, but I think this is acceptable. We should hate on Pocket Pair for doing things like this. They're just doing it as a result of these patterns, right? And these patterns are ridiculous, right? It's just too vague and basic, right? It's not a very specific mechanic, it's a very basic mechanic. It's like as basic as drinking water. If someone were to patent drinking water in a game, no one can ever drink water in a game year after, or something like that, right? So the main thing, and I discussed this in my previous video as well, Palworld was released in January 19, 2024, right? And each of these patterns were filed afterwards. Everything was afterwards. July 30th, 2024, February 26th, 2024, March 5th, 2024. So, you know, as you can see, Nintendo and Pokemon, they specifically put out these patterns to single target Palworld, right? It is that obvious. So now, like we dived into these patterns in the previous video, and like it was all in Japanese. We translated it and we try to understand it to the best we can, right? So these are like very underhanded tactics, and Nintendo has been doing this for years, right? They've done this before, and they still keep getting away for this. The problem is that this latest one, like this is the most obvious, right? So this kind of like sets up a very bad precedent. So for future games, like when games come out, like someone, if there's something that is like closely related to that game, they could just easily put up a patent and start filing a lawsuits like this. This is not good for competition. This is not good for the gaming industry, in my opinion, and this does not sit well with gamers in general. um I think a game like Palworld is important for Pokemon to self develop its own game, right? Because Pokemon, the original games, right? They've been in this same formula for quite a while. They do not experiment a lot. They don't change a whole lot of things in the games, and they still keep charging like ridiculous amounts for each of the games, for each of the DLCs, right? Um, and yeah, so I mean, like right now, Pokemon in general, the only thing that's carrying it is the competitive scene. The competitive scene is the only thing that keeps making Pokemon popular, right? Nothing else, right? No one cares about the story anymore. No one goes and says, "Oh, the story in Pokemon is really good. It is very interesting. A very written story, very good environment, a really good." No, no, nothing like that. So it is what it is, right? So I don't know, like it's not the fault of Pocket Pair, right? So people should not hate Pocket Pair for making changes to the game in order to kind of like counter these kind of patterns, but rather it's an issue with, one is Nintendo and Palworld, sorry, Nintendo and Pokemon allowed to apply such patterns, right? They, for them doing this, and whoever the governing bodies are, for them, for allowing them to apply such patterns, right? Like especially after a game has been released, right? If they haven't applied it since then, like what the hell, right? Like if Palworld were to put out a pattern, like they won't do it, but if they were to put out a pattern like, I don't know, something like this, right? Just to say, I mean, like I don't understand this, right? Like it's just so, it's like if you look at the recent releases of games, right? Like when like Path of Exile came out, right? The newest in the top down ARPG games. So if someone like Blizzard were to uh if someone like, if someone from Blizzard, if Blizzard were to like, um pattern that, right, that top down ARPG combat aspect, if there was a pattern something like that, there's going to be, they can easily throw lawsuits at Path of Exile, The Last Epoch, games like that, right? So this sets up a very bad precedent, right? That game companies can do shit like this, and they sometimes tend to get away with it, right? So yeah, I'm not sure like what's happening. So Palworld has not put out a statement. It's just that players have noticed this change, and everyone is like relating it to the pattern, which is obvious. But what I'm trying to say is, bottom line is, we should not hate Pocket Pair for this, right? Pocket Pair is by no fault to make such changes. Like, I mean, I don't find an issue with the animation. They're just doing what they have to do to save the game, right? So it's all fine by me. But yeah, we'll see how this lawsuit carries on. So Palworld is yet to make their. So they announced that they were going to do a big update in December, right? So there's still no news from it. Something is supposed to come out in this month, so they might be holding on to it for a little bit longer because of these stuff going on as well. So, but yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it goes.